Okay, cool. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Keptn Developer Meeting. Today it's March 4th. We have a great agenda today, as we have a big announcement on the latest release of Keptn. But before that, let us quickly go through the first parts of the agenda. So everyone, as usual, please just insert your names in here. We will share the meeting document also on Zoom chat as usual. By the way, we are following here the CNCF Code of Conduct. So that basically means please be nice to each other. Hi, Robert. Thanks for joining. And yes, so please put in your names. And first part on the agenda. So there are no follow-up actions from the last meeting. Second part is actually something, I'm really happy to announce this. So Keptn got accepted into the LFX mentorship program with 2 projects. And we are happy to welcome 2 mentees, Raj and Hemant. So thanks for joining the Keptn project. I think you're also here today in this meeting. So thanks for joining also in this meeting. We are pretty sure that we hear more from your side and your development on Keptn once we get your projects starting. And Raj and Hemant will join us for the next couple of weeks for a mentorship project, and they will work on 2 dedicated projects, and I'm sure they will share the progress also in these meetings. So welcome everyone. And welcome to our mentees. Really great to have you. With that, if there are any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm already in. Yes, please.
I think we should mention that starting today, that every second week, we will give the community more time here in this dev meeting to show us their pull requests, to come up with questions, to have a chat about what they are working on and what they want to implement in Keptn. And then every other second week, the Keptn core team that are building Keptn on their daily business, they are presenting features and improvements and what have been accomplished within 2 weeks. This is the kind of new format that we want to follow now. And today is the time that actually the community gets more time to speak.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this input. So that's basically starting with next week. So it will be
next week will be a feature presentation, and
March
after that,
11th.
Time to discuss.
Okay, so we will actually do it this way. Next time is the feature presentation, March 11th. Oh, sorry. And the week after it will be March 18th.
Correct.
18th, we will have dedicated time for community questions, and that's actually also a great part where we can use this also with working with the mentees on the projects, and we can answer questions. And also, as we're seeing more interesting Keptn integrations, this will also be part of working on Keptn integrations. I know that there has been some work already going on in lifting Keptn integrations from Keptn 7.3 to the latest version of Keptn. So next week, we will for sure hear more about the progress going on from the Keptn core team, and then we can use this the other weeks for the more community focused content. So this is great. Cool. Yeah, thanks for this input. Is there any other input on the community or on the LFX mentorship programs, or any other questions so far? If not, then, and by the way, I'm just allowing everyone also to unmute, then I'm already handing over to the next part on the agenda, and I think that will be Johannes sharing. Okay.
share button. All right, yeah. Really cool that last week we jointly kicked off the CI pipeline for releasing Keptn. Then we now took a week to finally test it out and also provide the documentation of the latest features that we implemented. And today I have the honor to announce that Keptn 0.8 is officially released, and you can now download it, install it, and yeah, work based on Keptn 0.8 as you were used to 0.7.3. But with this new version, changes come along. And today I want to show you on a conceptual and high level overview or point of view what have been changed and also what new capabilities that you can now use using the new version. And therefore, I mean, oh, yeah. Maybe if you are also interested in what's coming next, what we are heading towards, you always find the roadmap, so to say, on the Keptn project board, which is on the Keptn organization. Just go there. Then you see projects, and then there is the roadmap. And what is accepted for 0.8 or what is already in the backlog refinement for 0.8 is improvements in regard to deliver Keptn with Keptn itself. This is what we want to work on. Then the UI will get improvements in regard to the quality gates in two ways. First, there will be a project-wide overview of the quality gate results covered by this epic. And the second one will be improvements in regard to the naming of SLIs, as they can become very long. And there are some limitations with these long names. We will also improve this part. From time to time, please just take a look at this board, and there you find all the information towards the direction the project is going. All right, but now it's time for 0.8. Let me quickly open the release notes. You find on the release notes all the key announcements that that we publish and that we announce, like the new way of specifying so-called task sequences, then individual tasks in a sequence, and so on. Please check out this release notes. I will now show you in a slide deck how those things are actually then implemented and you can make use of. All right. And this is now where I jump back to my presentation and we'll talk about Keptn 0.8. The main part that has been implemented is based on the new Shipyard format, which has the version 0.2. This has been proposed by this it's a CAP enhancement proposal. It incorporated a couple of specification changes you also find in here. And this is what mainly drove the development of Keptn 0.8. But before getting into details, let me, to all new participants and listener, let me just give you the concept behind the Shipyard and what it actually is for the Keptn project. The Shipyard is, we came up with this term, and it is the mean that allows you to define the stages of your staging process. Like here in this example, the Shipyard, in the Shipyard you model the way you want to promote an artifact, assuming you have a dev stage where you test out your new artifact. Then when testing in dev is fine, you promote it to hardening. And when test and hardening are done and show you that everything is going smoothly, then you finally deployed into production. This is the first thing that you can model with the shipyard. And then within each stage, you can then define the processes you want to execute, like a delivery process or remediation process. This is the second capability and the second feature that is unique or important for understanding the shipyard. The shipyard itself, you define on a project level. This means that all services that are within this Keptn project, they share the same shipyard, meaning that they follow the same staging process, and they also follow the same processes you define in this shipyard. Let me just give you here an example of a delivery process. There the default or it's common practice or best practice, you have a deployment step where you just deploy the artifact, then you test it. After testing, you evaluate the quality. When everything is good, you ask the user for an approval. And finally, when the approval is okay, then you go on and you release it, meaning that you make it public available and also end user facing. This is one process within one stage, and you can then also model it differently. But I will show you now how you can do that. And also, it's always good to rethink principles that the Keptn project follows. And one of our core principles is that we focus on separation of concerns, meaning that on the one hand, in the shipyard, you define the processes, and they should be decoupled from the underlying tooling that is actually then doing the execution of a certain task. This is known as being tool agnostic. And here I just visualize this with different colors, meaning that the deployment step is done by this tool here in green, testing by the red one, and so on. This is a core principle that we as a project follows. All right, yeah, let's go on with the specification of the new shipyard format. This now follows the frame and the pattern of a custom resource known in Kubernetes. This means that on the top you have some meta information about the shipyard, about this is the spec version, then the kind we are talking about, and then place for adding arbitrary meta information like the name of the file you're looking at. Then after that, you have the chance to model then the stages. This here is the stage property, and this is a list of stages that you in your shipyard that you want to define in your shipyard. Here in this example, I have just one stage. It has the name hardening, and then in each stage you can add sequences. Sequences are the processes I mentioned before, and again, you can add multiple sequences to a stage, give it a name, and there's also a way that you can define when this sequence gets triggered. This is done by this triggered on property, where you just reference the event that works as a trigger for kicking off this sequence. And afterwards, this is then the final piece of defining a sequence, because then you just tell which tasks should be executed when this sequence gets triggered. And here again, this is also a list where you can define all the tasks that sequentially will be then orchestrated by Keptn. Back to my example from before, it's a deployment step. After the deployment, a test gets executed, then a second test. They just differ by two properties. The first one gets the property functional and the other one the property performance. When the second test is finished, we kick off the getSLI function. Then the evaluation will be triggered. The based on the evaluation, you can then ask the user for approval, and finally the releasing step is executed. This is now the basic concept for defining a stage with a sequence and multiple tasks within this sequence. All right, first, you can now clearly, or you can now define multiple sequences within one stage. This is the first user benefit that comes with the new format. Let me show you that. Here I'm just adding a second sequence to my production stage in this example. The first one is the first one I call deployment. It kicks on when hardening, the delivery and hardening is finished. It does a couple of steps, and then next to this sequence, I define my performance testing sequence, and this one just does a test and evaluation. All right. Just want to let you know when you have questions, please feel free to interrupt me, and I'm happy to take your questions and to answer them along my talk. All right. I'm sorry. All right. When it comes then to the execution of the certain tasks within a sequence, then we now follow a pattern or a defined way of executing a task. And this is now implemented that the Shipyard Controller, which is the core of Keptn, will send out a triggered event for each task that is listed in this sequence. When we take a look at this deployment task, then the Shipyard Controller will send out an SH Keptn event deployment triggered. Then there will be a tool that listens to this event. When the tool then received it and starts to work, then it just sends out a deployment started to inform the Shipyard Controller that the action has been started. And finally, when the service is done, then it just sends a deployment.finished, and this informs then the Shipyard Controller to go on and to start with the next task in this sequence. And by following this mechanism, Keptn orchestrates your delivery in this case. All right. Now, next to the user benefit of separating the sequences, you can also add custom tasks to a sequence. Let me just show you the example. Here, I have the delivery process, but for a certain case, I want to add a migration step before kicking off the deployment, because I have to migrate, for example, a database, or I have to do any kind of migration step. Then I just add this task in front of the deployment task in my sequence. And this is enough that Keptn will then take care of sending out the migration.triggered event, and you have then to implement the component that does the migration. But when this is plugged in, then your process can be executed with this new task in there. With this feature in mind, it's quite powerful, because now we can actually model any process that you want to implement, as we are flexible and can accept any tasks in there. All right, then next to adding tasks, we also can now specify when a sequence gets triggered. As I mentioned before, this is done by the trigger property, and this allows to model quite of interesting environments I will show you, but just a few words about the trigger. the trigger is yeah, an element or a property of a sequence. It also takes a list, and this list is just a key value pair of the key is event, and the value is then the name of the event that this sequence will then, the event that this sequence will be kicked off, by which the sequence will be kicked off. Let me just give you here an example. Here I have an environment that has a dev, a hardening, and a pre-production stage. I left out the sequences from the dev and hardening to, yeah, due to limitations of space, but the pre-prod has a delivery sequence. And then I have two additional environments, a production environment for customer A and a production environment for customer B. You can also see it here in this yeah, visualization. And I modeled it in a way that production customer, the stage for production customer A and B, they just listen and get kicked off when the delivery in the pre-prod environment has been finished. And this is just done by adding here the triggered on property and specifying the event pre-prod dot delivery finished. And this is enough that we can yeah, react on what happened before to kick off the sequence in this particular stage. And exactly the same is true for the production customer B stage. I also have here my trigger, and this also will get then simultaneously be triggered and also didn't do their job or the sequence they have defined. And as we are talking here about multiple stages for multiple customers, there is also the need that these environments may run on different clusters. And just by giving this example, here we have the stage or the environment for the customer A. We assume that this one is running on GKE. And then we have environment for customer B. This one is on an EKS cluster on AWS. This is now also possible to implement using the new Keptn. And we call this yeah, the multi-cluster support. And the way that you can set up this is explained here. Let me just follow this link. And this is now the part where we talk about splitting the planes. Keptn itself is the control plane, meaning that it is a central component that does the orchestration of your sequences and stages and all the stuff that is yeah, correlated. But when you want to have a scenario where you have an external cluster, then you need to install services on this external cluster, like a deployment service or a test service. And these guys need to listen to the control plane. And this we call the execution plane. Here in this example or in this documentation, I just show you that here the Helm service and the Gmeter service are running. They will then take care of deploying the application on this stage and also testing it. But the core itself just controls everything and is running on another cluster. All right, yeah. This setup requires that you have multiple clusters available, one that hosts the control plane, the other one that represents the customer environment or the stage you want to set up. Installing the control plane is like installing Keptn itself. It's just the Keptn install command. And you also have to specify the endpoint you want to expose your Keptn to the outside world. And when it comes now to the execution plane, that is on the edge and not linked to your control plane, then you have to take care of deploying the execution services there. By default, we provide support for the Helm service and the Gmeter service. And we also go the way of deploying these services using Helm charts. You find the Helm charts on the GitHub release 0.8. Just feel free to check them out and to download them. You can also take a look into the way this Helm chart is specified. And then you have to configure this service by just defining that this service runs on remotely. And here you just say in the values.yaml of the Helm chart enabled as a remote control plane enabled true. You define the protocol your Keptn endpoint is running on, then the host name of the Keptn endpoint, and then we added the feature that you can skip TLS verification in case you don't have SSL set up. And finally, you also have to specify the Keptn API token. And this is basically enough to tell the service on the execution plane how it communicates with Keptn. And just back to my example on the slide, in case you also want to separate the execution planes, you have basic functionality to configure filters on the edge, and these filters work on project level, on stage level, and on service level. And based on my example I had before, or a similar one, where I just want to split production and hardening on different clusters, then I would say that my service that is running on this cluster has to listen on events for the hardening stage, and the execution services that are running on the cluster B, they have to listen to events from the production stage. And next to defining the communication way, or the way to communicate with the control plane, and adding the one or other filter, you then are good to go to deploy your execution plane service on the cluster. And this is done, as I said, by using Helm install. And that's basically it for deploying the service. Finally, and this is very handy, you can test that the communication to the control plane works by just running the command Helm test, then the name of your service and the namespace you installed it in, and then the test report should tell you that the communication worked or did not work. In case it did not, then we provide here a little bit further down a troubleshooting section where you can, again, get more information what may be wrong and how you can fix this communication problem. All right, yeah, and with services that are then running on an execution plane, you're good to go that you can set up a multi-cluster environment. All right. Okay, this brings me now to the end. The very central component that also has to be implemented, has been implemented with the Keptn 0.8 release, is the Shipyard Controller, as it is the brain for the Keptn control plane. The Shipyard Controller understands what you are modeling in your shipyard specification. It takes over responsibility for sending out the events, and it also is the component that acts upon events that you are sending back to the controller in order to successfully orchestrate the processes that you came up with and you want to get executed. All right. Oh, yeah, here again, I have a slide. I think I mistakenly moved it to the wrong location, but just for your understanding about the multi-cluster setup, as I said, when you have here two different clusters, one for customer A, one for customer B, one on GKE, the other one on EKS. Then you have to install small components there, the components that take over just the task of deploying, for example, as I said, and that's basically it for setting up the the multi-cluster environment. All right. Are there any questions?
Really cool. I think that's huge changes and huge improvements. It's really a big release and a big improvement how Keptn works and which new and about all the new use cases that are now possible with this decision.
This opens now a wide variety of use cases. That's true. Mm-hmm. And now Keptn really jumps into the role of becoming a control plane. What we are aiming for.
Cool. Yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Are there any questions on this?
I saw some questions coming in. Let me just.
It wasn't. So I shared. In the middle of your presentation, I lost the audio. My internet connection did not allow me to hear you. Are there other questions coming in? I don't think so. I know that just Robert and I think Christian they did in the Slack they discussed the PR, but maybe that's one PR that we can have in one of the next developer focused or community focused community meetings here of Keptn once it's merged. Yeah, if there are no more questions or feedback to this, Johannes, can you do me a favor and just briefly go back to the Keptn community meeting notes, because I forgot something earlier, and I just want to do this now. I want to. Have you already switched? Maybe it's my internet connection that I cannot see. Oh, now I can see the document.
Yeah. I already switched, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's just my internet connection is a bit slow today. I just want to announce again that we kicked off a working group on auto remediation that was already announced in the previous Keptn community meetings and also on Slack, so you might already be familiar with it. But there is now a meeting document. There is a dedicated Slack channel. So if you're interested on shaping how auto remediation should work, and if you're interested on the future of auto remediation, also in general, not only in Keptn, of course, it will be then implemented in Keptn, but this meeting group or this working group is really about the concepts and on the requirements of auto remediation, how it should work. And if you have any feedback, if you have any insights on tools, or if you're already building some kind of auto remediation inside your organizations, let us know or just join our next working group. We meet bi-weekly on, I think we agreed on Wednesdays, bi-weekly. You will find the schedule also in the meeting doc and in the Slack channel. And we also have, we can send you the calendar invite, just let us know and we will forward it. Otherwise, they are public meetings anyway. You will also find the Zoom invite in the meeting docs. But yeah, we're looking forward also to seeing you in this working groups if you're interested in working on this. Yeah, thanks. I'm handing back to Johannes, but this was just something I missed earlier as I was a little bit blocked with meetings today.
Perfectly fine. Thanks for adding this item to the bullet list. Very important to mention. I'm actually also through my content that I prepared today. Yeah, giving you a quick overview about the capabilities of the new Shipyard and the Keptn features. I think the only thing that I have to say is download it, test it out, and let us know what can be improved, what is your use case, what you want to have also implemented, so that we then can jointly drive the next big release for Keptn. All right. Okay. Are there questions from someone?
I think no. There's just feedback from Robert that .8 features look great, and you did a great job on the demo. Excellent demo, excellent presentation. I just want to mention that there is this migration guide for contrib services and also Keptn Sandbox services. I know that Christian has put a lot of effort in this, how to upgrade Keptn services and Keptn integrations. There is a YouTube video out there. This seems to be a preview link, deployment preview. It's not yet up. But if you are working on Keptn integrations, please let us know in the Keptn in the Slack, and we can also work with you on upgrading the integrations. Christian has done it on the example of the Litmus service, which is a not very complicated service, so you can basically follow this as well. Perfect. And I will also find the video, and we will put it in there as well. Cool. Are there any more items? Otherwise, I think we can close it a little bit earlier. I just found the link from the video from Christian, and I will put it in here. There we go. Okay, then thanks everyone for joining. We meet again next week, same time. And I think we'll then have some presentations, feature presentations of the Keptn core team. And then every other week, we'll have feature related presentations and community focused meetings where we can talk about integrations and also the work from our mentees. So thanks everyone for today. Have a great evening, and see you all maybe in the Keptn Slack or latest next week. And please everyone download Keptn 0.8. I know the team has put a lot of effort in it, and it's I think it's basically you're the first ones that know of the release, because we have not even yet put it out on Slack or on Twitter. So it's really the Keptn community meeting is the best place to get this news firsthand.
The latest news, yeah.
Okay, then thanks everyone. See you all next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.